Hey, I'm Doug Stensick with Cripple Creek Backcountry, and today we're going to talk about the lineup from Voilé skis. Voilé is a company we've been working with since the very beginning. They're one of the original backcountry companies made in the US, all out of Salt Lake. Been a super popular ski back when they only had one construction and a few models. They've been adding more and more to it every year, so we thought we'd explain a little bit about what they're going for. Basically, they have 3 constructions now. They probably have around 12 different molds they're using. Today we're going to focus on their lightweight ski touring skis up to kind of their all mountain. We kept the higher end out of it just to keep it somewhat focused. So I think it makes the most sense to start with the Charger. It's been my favorite ski for years and years out of the Voilé lineup. And I have up here the 3 different constructions they're now making it in. The original, since the Supercharger came out years and years ago. Later, they added the Hyper, which is their lighter weight, and this year they released the Ace construction. Now, the original construction featured a poplar wood core, and that's what made it like damp and stable in many different environments. It was a little bit heavy for a touring specific ski, so they added the Hyper construction, I would say about 7-8 years ago. And now the Hyper construction, instead of using the poplar, they switched it to a Paulownia wood core, which is a much lighter wood, and they added 2 sheets of carbon in there to stiffen it up so you're dropping weight but keeping that stiffness, that liveliness, and the skiability. In order to thread the needle between it, this is the first year they came out with the Ace construction. The Ace construction uses the Paulownia wood core, and the Paulownia wood core keeps it light, but they were finding they couldn't advise a telly binding be mounted to it because the telly binding will put all of your force in just the toe piece because you don't have a heel piece to spread it out to. So they added in the Ace construction a maple mounting section which uses a harder wood that will keep even telly binding in there. In order to do that, it threads the needle between, and now we have a weight that's light enough to tour telly on, but strong enough that it'll hold a binding mount for any binding. The Charger has been a really popular ski because it has a really good balance of that rocker camber profile. Some of their other skis, like the V8, was their first big powder ski, which featured a ton of rocker in the front. And then they added the V6 here, which was the baby brother of it. The Supercharger was made in between, so people could have a lot of camber underfoot with a bit of rocker in the top, and it wasn't quite as revolutionary of a design or progressive as a design for people that are used to a more traditional ski. That's one of the reasons why this has been the best-selling ski for us for years. I also brought out a women's Hypercharger here. And the significance is most companies, they make a women's top sheet ski, which will be a slightly different color. However, Voilé is the one company that they size progressively down the waist width and all the dimensions as you reduce lengths of the ski. So if we're looking here, this is a 171. It's a 104 in the waist of the ski, and about 137 in the tip. If we go all the way down to the women's here, it's 99, so it drops a half a centimeter in the waist, and it's only 125. That way, a shorter skier can ski a ski that's proportionally the same. You can think about how strange it is when you're using the same width waist for a 188 as you are down a 154, and Voilé really kept that in mind for both women and all skiers of varying sizes. The very last thing I'd say about the Charger lineup as I show it here is the Ace construction. They also added their first sidewall ski. Almost all their other skis have been cap constructed, which just means it's that top sheet spread over to the wall. This is going to have that stacked sandwich construction, which is what supports the mounting points. And that's the Charger ski. To go through all the shapes in the wall, Voilé has a ski, the WSP, the Wasatch Speed Project, which is like their race ski. Again, we're focusing on the meat of the lineup. So it really starts this year with the Endeavor ski. And the Endeavor ski is a replacement on the Objective ski. Depending on your length, it's right around 80 millimeters underfoot. And that would be your ski for the longest ski approaches, spring skiing, mountaineering, maybe someone that dabbles in a race. They make it in all the constructions, and it allows you to have a ski that's still going to be stable, but it's going to be light enough and efficient enough with how skinny it is that it'll have a smaller skin. It's one of the only skis in their lineup that has that speed tip attachment, so you can get a skin you can rip from the front for really efficient transitions. And yeah, just a ski that's meant to go far. The next in the lineup is, for most places in the country, the most popular ski, which is the Vector. This I qualify as like the mid-90 all-mountain ski. In this length we're looking at here, it's a 164. So again, that's starting to be on the shorter end of their line. That's a 9,200 foot. I believe the 154 below that is a 90. And then when we go up to something in like the 170s, that's when you're going to start hitting that 94, 96, even a 98 in the longest edition. So this is like your great do everything ski. It has a lot of side cut, 123 in the tip, 92 underfoot, 108. And that's going to make the ski release really easy, be very versatile. We talked about the supercharger right in the meat of it. And then kind of overlapping with the dimensions would be the V6. Like I said, the V6 was the little brother to the V8 ski, which was a very popular powder ski when it came out. And they decided that in this ski, again, in a 173, you're looking at 9,800 foot. That's a powder ski for a lot of people. That is just slightly narrower than the supercharger, but it kind of fills out the lineup. If you start skiing that in a much longer length than the 173, you're going to be definitely over 100 foot, over 100 millimeters underfoot. And more significantly, that's when you start getting that big tail release and a lot of rocker in the tip with still a little bit of camber underfoot. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is something very specific to Voilé. They're the only alpine downhill backcountry brand doing this, is their BC lineup. And their BC lineup they actually make in every construction except for the Ace. So they'll make it in the regular and the hyper. And what they've done is they've added fish scales to like the kick zone of the ski, which basically allows you to do approaches without a skin on it. I was so psyched the first time I got a hold of a BC ski, especially because I was living in Oregon at the time. We had long approaches on flat surface roads, and this was an amazing ski for that. In fact, on like meadow skipping days, I was able to not put a skin on for the whole day. What I would warn the viewer right now is that you can't make it up a very steep slope with this. So skins are still definitely necessary, but it allows you to kick and glide like you're on a Nordic ski if you're going on flats or even slight uphills. And then you add a ski when you start your kick turns and going up steeper. The really cool thing about the BC is that it starts with your lightest race ski and goes all the way up through the whole mountain lineup. So you can choose your waist width, you can choose your construction, and you can decide if you want to have a full sintered base that holds a wax, that holds a skin, or the BC that will be great for those long approaches and going uphill. So with Voilé, it's a lot of lineups. If you start thinking about the matrix of 10 different shapes, 3 different constructions with or without BC, you get to a massive amount of individual molds, especially when you're tapering up from the bottom to the top. The 154s being the most narrow ski and their 185s being the widest. It's a lot to take in. We're always happy to help choose the perfect ski to you. Voilé has been a great brand to work with, made in American skis. I really recommend you try a pair this year.